Hi there, it's Ian here, and you're watching Grumpy Opinions, the show where I'm going to tell you all about what I think of films, TV shows, games, and life in general. Let's get on with the show.
Westworld is the HBO show about a robot uprising of all the host NPCs from a futuristic cowboy theme park. I mean, you probably know the drill by now. Episode 7, Past Pawn, kicks off in Jakarta, where Seto is doing his usual business dealings and shenanigans when he gets a call from Delores, and true to her sort of Caliban form, she's in a total vengeful mood, and she lets him know that she's tipped off his location to some unpleasant types that want him dead. So he makes like a tree and gets the hell out of there, only to be told that there's someone wanting to talk to him, and turns out it's Clementine. Yeah, remember her? And after a few barbed comments, it's guns blazing time, and Sato legs it to the door, only to get gut stabbed by whoever this is. I mean, oh right, apparently, yeah, she was in Shogun World, that episode in Season 2, that totally throwaway side quest episode. Anyway, she does a bit of a sword shuffle and Sato gets decaffeinated. And back in sunny San Fran, Stubbs and Bernard are looking around the facility with William, and Stubbs is getting a bit antsy around him because they don't trust him, and they discover that not only was Delores hiding a computer virus in his blood that allowed them to hack into the place, but he's also been legally listed as being dead. And then they find out there's a long list of other people who've been reprogrammed by Serac, and right at the top of that list is Caleb. But what does it mean? But anyway, that can wait because it's time to get gone, so the three of them leave, and then William starts prattling about how he's going to save the world by killing all the hosts, starting with those two. And they just go, it'll be fine. So it's hardly a surprise when they get to the nearest petrol station and he picks up a shotgun and starts holding them up. Meanwhile, Caleb and Big D are in Mexico and they've found Serac's secret complex, and after a wee bit of Ghost Recon stuff with a drone and a sniper rifle, they're in, and inside they find Solomon, the big original computer AI that Serac and his brother built. And it's been kept there with a big huge EMP bomb beside it, just so it can be turned off if it ever goes crazy. And they have a bit of a chat with it, and it shows them the underground facility where all the undesirable, unprogrammable people have been kept in cryosleep. And Solomon says that Caleb was one of the top people who worked to put everybody there, and that starts finally breaking through his reconditioning. And he remembers that him and his buddy Francis were covert operatives back in the army, doing hits and taking out bad guys. But after they were injured and out, he remembered they took jobs and then bad guys shot Francis. But it turns out that was all a lie. Turns out after leaving the army, the jobs they got actually were working secretly for Serac, and they were just basically boxing up all the people like him. And it was actually him that shot Francis after they put them up against each other, because he'd found out too much. After that, he got reconditioned, and then he was on a downward spiral ever since. And Delores tells Solomon to make a plan for a revolution, and they realise somebody else is coming in. It turns out it's Maeve, and she comes gunning for Delores with a katana, and they fight all the way through the kitchen, and then out into a wee hut in the garden, and all the while they're getting shot at by each other's drones. But Delores doesn't done too well and gets an arm off, and then she makes straight for the EMP machine, and sets it off just before Maeve can actually kill her, and plunges the whole place into darkness. And then when Caleb comes back out, he finds Delores dead, and he's got yet another reason to hate the world. So what did I think? Well, I thought this week was actually your kind of average penultimate episode of a TV show. Because you see, the penultimate episode of every show, that's the second to last one, tends to do one of two things. Either it sets up a big massive cliffhanger, if it's like a more episodic show, or it fills a gap where they tie up all the loose ends and allow the finale to basically run on unfettered by everything else, so it can just be one totally compelling final segment. And this was definitely the latter of those two. Now, in its favour, I mean, it wasn't a bad hour of TV. I mean, we got some interesting stuff. There was a pair of pretty solid fight scenes, I mean, the latter of which was a massive showdown between two major characters we've been waiting to see face off for a long time. And it made some really good use of terrain and locations, and had that cool idea of them being stuck inside the wee shed, and any movement outside risked them getting popped by either Delores' autogun and drone or Maeve's attack chopper. And we also got like pretty good effects stuff of like Delores' arm getting blown off, and that was all pretty well done, and there was even some making of stuff at the end of the episode. And I also like that they didn't actually try and overcomplicate things with Caleb's memories, or have this kind of idea that's been floating around a bit that he actually maybe never was a soldier and that was just part of his programming. No, it's just basically they slightly altered things to confuse him. And I really like the Ghost Recon section with Delores assaulting the base, marking her targets out. I mean, honestly, as I said, that the reason I call that a Ghost Recon thing is there's the video games Ghost Recon, and they basically let you do exactly that. And as I've said before, Westworld is absolutely nothing if not shamelessly in love and cribbing bits from video games. But, yeah. Other than that, yeah. I mean, it's all I've really got to be praiseworthy about, because you could basically write this episode on the back of a napkin. I mean, effectively, the story is Delores and Caleb meet a computer and it dumps some exposition. And then Team Stubbnard read something on a monitor screen and they dump more exposition. And then Maeve and Delores had a fight and both of them die. I mean, that's basically it. That's the whole episode. I mean, if it wasn't for the cold open in Jakarta and that one weird shot of Delores, then it basically would have been a 2-location episode with just one major and one minor storyline. And it's all basically exposition and faffing about, dragged out and bookended by some fight scenes. And as I said, that's the problem with penultimate episodes in general, because they tend to be full of faffing about and exposition dumping. And this was a total, test case example of that. And sure, this season, like others before it, has had a kind of a focus character. Because episode 1 of this season, the focus this week was Caleb, and we finally got the truth about his past. And it really wasn't anything that anyone with half a brain hadn't seen coming. And we now find out the hosts can actually be taken out with an EMP, so I suppose those little brain pearl enclosure things don't actually protect against that as far as we know. And strangely enough, Caleb's wee pen drive doohickey wasn't affected, I presume. I mean, tough luck to the 1,000 people in the cryotubes. I mean, I guess they've just been turned off and killed. So, I mean, I guess that's more collateral. Delores? I mean, it never occurred to her or Caleb to maybe say to Solomon, maybe wake these guys up. Then they've got themselves an army of angry people. I mean, unless, they're going to have Caleb do that after his angry walking away shot. I mean, the lights did come back on, so maybe there's some kind of, safety protocol thing that actually stops all these millions of people dying. And, maybe he just went outside to get a sandwich from his saddlebag or smoke a cigarette or something. Hard to say. But another problem I had was we've now killed off Delores and Maeve. Only we didn't, because they're clearly both in the next week's preview thing. And also, this show doesn't really have the balls to actually pull like a Game of Thrones and wipe out a whole bunch of lead characters in a single episode. And it's definitely not going to kill off the 2 power ladies at the top. So, yeah, this kind of annoyed me because this EMP death was just kind of a bit of a fake out. But they did kill off Sato, which was a bit confusing because he was cut in half. And as we've seen countless times in this, that basically these guys are kind of like Highlander. You can't really kill them without taking out the head until the show decides that actually you can. And it's just so inconsistent. And honestly, another bugbear, Hiroyuki Sanada just can't get a break in Western films. I mean, yeah, he dies in this, again, way too early. He's barely in even this scene in this episode. And then it's just, oh, he's dead, naff. I mean, cool, we got Clementine's reoccurred. And what was the point of setting up like Sato in this Yakuza, only just chuck him away 2 seconds? Especially by a character that's basically a bit part 1 episode wonder. I mean, and a recurring minor character who spent most of the last 2 seasons switched off and in the robot shop because she was breaking down. I'm not cribbing anything against these actresses. I'm sure they do an absolutely fine job. But we've taken a character that seemed interesting and built up a wee bit, and we've just killed them off instantly. And now we've got 2 characters, one of whom literally we know absolutely almost nothing about other than she's got tattoos and is good with a sword. And this other one who, again, has never really had much of a character. And yet now we're supposed to care. Call me a cynic, but I think we're also going to lose Stubbsy first thing next week because he's another person who has no character. And they've done absolutely sweet sod all with him this season. And I don't think they'll kill Bernard because Bernard is one of the stalwart staples of this show. And he clearly has some part to play. So we've literally gone from the thing last week of having 2 teams of hosts up against each other, with some with mixed loyalties and some, Team Stubbnard doing their own thing, to now we've got Maeve and her sexy lady gang versus Caleb. And Serac's hanging around the background, who may or may not have actually predicted and been planning on some or all of this. And there's always another twist in Westworld. It's a show that's entirely built on telling a story that on second viewing is completely different once you recontextualise it with whatever nugget of truth and knowledge that you only get at the end. And what's the twist this time? It's kind of hard to say. I mean, there's undoubtedly going to be something in next week's probably extended episode, and it could be literally anything at this point. I mean, it could still be that everything's in a simulation. Either it could be inside Rehoboam or at some point in a far-flung future where William was, that maybe this is just all a thing like that. Or I mean, it could even be that William is actually a host himself. Maybe that's going to turn out to be a big thing. And what's more, I have a horrible suspicion that there's going to be some kind of twist that was actually in the first trailer. Because I could have sworn that in the first trailer you actually see Francis still alive in a prison jumpsuit talking to Caleb. And this episode was all about he's dead. So unless I've missed something, I mean, I don't remember that shot being in another episode, maybe it was. But, there's a whole bunch of shots from that trailer that were clearly from the finale, which is the reason I don't actually watch trailers, because they give away too much. And I've got the sort of brain that puts them together, and that kind of messes things up for me because I don't forget what I've seen. But anyway, I mean, this week was pretty disposable, ultimately. I mean, it's not going to be anybody's favourite episode of the show or even the season. I mean, unless you were some kind of kung fu fan who really liked the lassie fight at the end. But with only one single episode to go, I'm genuinely really keen to see how this turns out. I mean, it could be that the finale ties everything up. Maybe it'll subvert my expectations in a good way. And as I said, maybe it'll make me view the situation in the season in a whole different light whenever I get round to rewatching it, which will probably be sometime shortly before Season 4 starts. Because apparently that actually got greenlit this week. Yep, so there's going to definitely be a Season 4 of Westworld. And that apparently will probably also be the final season. So it'll be a 4-season show and done. And I'm kind of going to call it now. I still think the final season is going to be some kind of Mad Max style post-apocalyptic thing, sort of Firefly or meets Mad Max, sort of cowboys that wander around with humans and hosts both roaming the earth. As I said, kind of like something like Space Above and Beyond, with the robot people having a war with the humans, or maybe even kind of like the end of the world, that Simon Pegg movie. And there's kind of a symmetry to that, if it coming back to a cowboy thing set in the desert. And yeah, either that or maybe the final thing of it all is that the very, very end of this, it's going to pan out and it'll be some dude playing a game on his Xbox or something. I mean, I kind of hope I'm wrong about that, but that would be a big end twist that would make kind of sense in the context of this being so video gamey. But yeah, till next time, I've been Ian, and these have been my grumpy opinions. And a final shout out to my awesome patrons, Judith Coloma and Michelle Forbes. Thanks guys, honestly, you guys absolutely warm up my wee heart. It's great, I absolutely love it, and I hope you keep enjoying the show and stick with me. And everybody else, you take care out there, stay safe and stay well, and I'll catch you all soon. Bye bye.